Good morning, everybody. So welcome in the webinar. It's a joint action of the European Lifestyle Medicine Organization, ELMO, and the European Network for Smoking and Tobacco Prevention, ENSP. So it's the first time that we are working together. It's really goes well, and you will appreciate, hopefully positively, our first work together. I must say thank you also to the Secretary General of the European Network for Smoking and Tobacco Prevention, Mr. Cornel Radulogin, for his support in organizing this in such a short time. Probably you already participated or you maybe joined as a speaker presentation over the tobacco consumption. What is new, or it's at least at the beginning, it's to combine lifestyle intervention. So this is why today we will try to offer a global approach in ending tobacco and e-cigarettes consumption through lifestyle intervention. So this is why today we will see through the presentation of Dr. Anka Hönku, how can you avoid gaining weight if you decide to stop smoking, through the presentation of Professor Florin Mihalțan, how is e-cigarette a healthy tool to replace or not the classical cigarette. Then through my presentation, how can you explore the cause of smoking, so the history, what is behind a habit, and eventually to change with motivation interviewing. We have also a presentation from Poland that is about it's about technology, so how modern technology we can apply for a healthier lifestyle. So it's Mr. Krzysztof Przezowniak, so I hope I pronounced approximately correct, who is a reputed specialist and expert in public health policies. And then we have also, is the first time that we invite in our virtual event, we have also a medical student from Turkey. He will present, he will give us some data, some cultural and public health data related to the situation of tobacco use in Turkey. So we will have Kerem Nakai around 11:15 Central European time. So thank you for all the participants who accepted our invitation to be present here. And please, Dr. Anka Hönku, you will present about nutrition and smoking. For those who are interested about asking questions, chat, or after the presentation, you can also pose your questions with voice. So thank you.
Thank you for the invitation. Good morning for everybody. My subject, nutrition and smoking, will follow the following agenda: nutrition for smokers, weight gain threat and smoking cessation integrated in a lifestyle counseling, COVID-19 challenges for smokers, a healthy lifestyle for smokers, non-smokers and ex-smokers. For smokers, I will start with a book that I have been honored, where I have been honored to write a chapter together with Professor Mihalțan and Professor Maria Moța and Dr. Ionela Vladu. A book about nutritional status and COPD. Why I discuss about this book today? Because our subject, nutrition and smoking, is very much related to nutritional recommendations for COPD patients. Most of them are smokers, and all recommendations, nutritional recommendations in COPD have the objective to decrease the lung decline evolution. Smoking accelerates lung function decline, and a better average forced expiratory volume in the first second and slower decline is associated with magnesium, folate, niacin, vitamin A, vitamin D, omega-3 fatty acids. A significant role for high-quality diet on lung function as well as on mortality. Considering pathogenesis, lung function is affected by inflammation, by oxidative stress, by smoking, pollution, genetics, age, and as dietary factors, refined and high energy dense foods, red processed meat, added sugar, with preservative, with low fiber, high glycemic index, saturated fat, which are typical to Western diet, are influencing, exerts a detrimental influence on lung function. On the other side, the Mediterranean diet, full of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, alcohol, wine only in moderation, legumes, coffee, nuts, fish, which are rich in high antioxidants, vitamins, high fiber, low glycemic index. This type of diet exerts a protective and a benefic action on lungs, practically decreasing lung function decline. Medical nutrition therapy for obese smokers, which have also COPD, will mean energy adapted to activities, requirements calculated by bioimpedance and calorimetry in order to maintain a body mass index below 30, 32. As macronutrients, important will be to preserve quantity of proteins high 1.2 1.5 grams per kilogram body kilogram in order to maintain lung and muscle activity and to promote immune function. This is also a very valuable recommendation for all smokers. Proteins has as a percentage between 15 to 20%, 30 to 45% fats, and carbohydrates 40 to 55. The percentage of macronutrients is important in order to maintain the respiratory quotient, which is a marker for respiratory tolerance of dietary pattern recommended for the percentage of macronutrients but not for calories. The correct diet but not overconsumption will be critical for patients with compromised ability to realize gas exchanges. Excess calories produce carbon dioxide that must be expired. Here is a suitable model for smokers in order to prevent lung function decline. Is a pyramid designed on the Mediterranean model, specifically for patients with COPD, which may be adapted and may be used also for all smokers. Medical nutrition therapy in malnutrition and in COPD address hypermetabolism, prevent weight decrease, prevent lean mass decrease, and address improper food intake and appetite decrease. Small meals, frequent, nutritional dense, with main meal at the time when energetic level is the highest, rest before meal, proper caloric intake for maintenance of weight between a body mass index from 20 to 24, food availability which requests the minimum time to be prepared, limiting alcohol intake. All of these are important recommendations for patients with malnutrition in COPD and also for smokers with malnutrition. Cross-sectional studies found a negative and independent association between fiber intake and lung function decline. Whole grains, which are rich in phenolic acids, Flavonoids, vitamin E, exerts a protective action, which is attributable to the antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. In line with these beneficial properties, cross-sectional and longitudinal studies found a negative and independent association between total fiber intake and lung function decline. Practically, the risk of developing COPD is reduced by 40%, consuming a higher percentage of fibers. And these results will be mainly for smokers and also ex-smokers. High intake of foods rich in antioxidants, mostly fresh, hard fruits and vegetables, exert a beneficial effect on lung function, on the decline of lung function, and also on incidence of COPD and mortality. For smokers, a vitamin C supplementation with 35 milligrams per day is recommended. Lung function being also enhanced by fruits consumption. Higher intake of individual omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acids was associated with lower second. Value for smokers and with increased risk of COPD, while no association between omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids intake and forced expiratory volume in first, second, or COPD symptoms was seen. About alcohol, a low alcohol consumption, 1 to 3 grams per day, lead to higher levels of forced expiratory volume. But only wine intake was found to be positively associated with forced expiratory volume in first, second. But what is interesting to be mentioned that heavy alcohol intake negative effects on lung function are addictive to that of smoking. Practically, the resveratrol is the substance which exerts beneficial functions. Considering minerals, all of calcium, phosphor, iron, potassium, selenium have positive effects on lung function and need to be maintained in a normal range. Additional magnesium may play a beneficial role in respiratory function through its protective effect against inflammation and bronchoconstriction. A 40% increased risk of COPD for normal population and also for smoker is associated with higher consumption of red meat. Practically, all of us have to avoid red processed meat. Vitamin C exerts an antioxidative action well recognized, protects lung tissue, and focus on lung function maintenance, vitamin C mediated, may lead to a greater success in exploring potential targets in prevention lung disease. Vitamin E exerts an antioxidative effect, promising in lung function decline associated with age. Vitamin D supplementation shows a positive effect for people who have the baseline level below 25 nanomoles per liter. Considering carotenoids, here we have a conflicting results. For smokers, there is a different oxidative rates. So different studies showing positive, other show negative results for smokers for supplementation with carotenoids. What about quitting smoking? Because here is our debate in nutrition, because I still have persons in front of me which don't interrupt smoking, being afraid of gaining weight. Smoking cessation leads usually to weight gain, and people are afraid because there are some proposed mechanisms. The decreased resting metabolic rate, the increase of energy intake in the type of compensation mechanism, decreased physical activity, and increased lipoprotein lipase activity. Not many available informations or studies are about this resting energy intake. I have found a very old study showing that smoking for 0.8 milligram nicotine cigarettes increase resting energy expenditure by 3.3%. And also the other example showing the association with caffeine, increasing this resting energy intake by 7.5%. All these are explaining practically the fact that smokers are able to maintain their weight, and when they interrupt smoking, appears an increase in weight. Baseline fruit and vegetable intakes were inversely associated with weight change in men and women who quit smoking during follow-up in a study realized on 373,000 participants. For smokers and ex-smokers, 5 portions of fruits and vegetables per day reduced by 40% COPD risk. Smoking is also associated with a reduced fat perception. When people stop smoking, they will feel also the taste of fat, of sweet, more accentuated. So people will start also to eat more and to feel more the pleasant and the pleasance of food. Also in obese women, it is known that many of them eat an excess calorie, and these will lead also to a risk for cardiovascular and metabolic disease. There are some weight gain threats after smoking cessation. One of these studies is related to cardiovascular incidence and mortality for people with type 2 diabetes. It was published last year, because smoking cessation is particularly important for people with type 2 diabetes due to their risk of developing cardiovascular disease or other morbidities. And this is substantially augmented by both smoking and insulin resistance or hyperglycemia. However, smoking cessation is often accompanied by weight gain, and this is a risk factor for cardiometabolic diseases and might dilute the health benefit of quitting. Previous studies among apparently healthy individuals shows that excessive weight gain after smoking cessation could lead to a short-term increase in the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Practically, deterioration in cardiovascular risk factor and attenuation of the protective effect on cancer. In this analysis, 2 studies have been analyzed, the Narcissist Health Study and the Health Professional Follow-up Study. Here you have the characteristic of the population, the decreased incidence for cardiovascular disease among people with type 2 diabetes after quitting smoking, and also the benefit observed due to smoking quitting measured in incidence rate of events is altered, as it can be seen by weight gain increase. But weight gain or mortality here an obesity paradox, like it is described in COPD. Should a smoker ideally to be maintained in super overweight range? These are still questions. No clear answers. No previous study examined whether weight gain after smoking cessation would affect the reductions in all-cause specific mortality seen among smokers with type 2 diabetes. In conclusion, smoking cessation without subsequent weight gain is significantly associated with a reduced risk of total cardiovascular disease, coronary heart disease, and premature death among people with type 2 diabetes. But weight gain after smoking cessation attenuates the inverse association with the incidence of cardiovascular disease, although the reduction of all-cause and cause-specific mortality persists in quitters who gain weight. These data provide evidence that not only support the overall health benefits of quitting smoking in the prevention of morbidity and mortality among individuals with type 2 diabetes, but also emphasizes the importance of weight management after smoking cessation to maximize its health benefits. What about physical activity? This can attenuate weight gain after quitting. A large prospective study of postmenopausal women confirmed that quitting smoking was associated with weight gain, despite slightly increased reported physical activity among smokers. Higher levels of physical activity can attenuate weight gain, and low physical activity in a woman transition to high physical activity were not significantly different in weight gain from quitters who were high in physical activity at both times, indicating practically that being active after quitting is helpful regardless of pre-quitting level of physical activity. Practically, this process of smoking cessation should be integrated in a lifestyle counseling. There is a tendency when people decide to stop smoking, usually they decide to change their mindset, to change their life, and to adopt a healthy lifestyle. New quitters tended to have better diet quality and increased physical activity than continuing smokers. The combination of increased physical activity and being in the dietary modification intervention arm resulted in non-significant weight gain after quitting. Here are some healthy advices for persons that are trying to quit smoking. Very practical advices: to eat regularly. Skipping meals can result in overeating later in the day and an irritability, which may lead to make harder the resist to craving. Eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, and 1 or 2 healthy snacks will be important. Choose healthy snacks. Think of mini meal, some carrots, some veggies, some fruits, some whole grains, crackers, and cereals are good options. Move more. Fit activity into your daily routine and start practice physical activity, which is a nice physical activity, a pleasant physical activity. Eat a variety of healthy food each day. Listen your body. Eat when you are hungry and stop when you feel satisfied. What should I do if I crave unhealthy food all the time? Because this is typical after people quit smoking. the compulsory eating, the emotional eating will start. So ice cream, chocolate, different sweets have to be out of the house. In the house, in the fridge, only healthy food has to be there. Keep your mouth busy with some chewing gum if you are not sure that you will be enough strong to not to start to smoke again. Too much caffeine can make you irritable and can make very hard to stay smoke free. So make sure that you don't drink too much coffee. Choose water first for your thirst. Pay attention not to drink too many sugar sweetened beverages. Try to avoid alcohol or not to drink too much, because if you want to stay smoke free. There are also some challenges for smokers during this period of COVID-19, where some misleading news practically told to people that smokers are even protective in front of COVID-19. A recent study which evaluated 2.4 million people showed clearly, a recent study from this year showed that people who smoke are at an increased risk of developing symptomatic COVID-19. Current smoking being associated with increased overall COVID-19 symptom burden in all categories. No specific smoking-related pattern of symptom reporting, which might be attributable to existing prior symptoms related to smoking itself rather than COVID-19. From nutritional point of view, in front of COVID-19, the energy should be 25-30 calories per body weight, with a high intake of proteins, 1.2 to 2 grams per kilogram proteins. The maintenance of host macro and micronutrient status is an important preventive measure for COVID-19. Vitamins are important. The role of vitamin D was emphasized many times during this COVID period, especially very, very high doses of vitamin D. Also vitamin D supplementation, also vitamin A and C, but for vitamin C is not mandatory to have a supplementation for healthy people. Zinc deficiency also and selenium has to be supplemented in COVID-19 period. Smoking cessation mandatory during the illness should be a priority also in recovery period. And after pulmonary rehabilitation measures, a healthy lifestyle with normalizing body weight, a healthy nutrition model adapted to caloric and nutritive requirements, daily physical activity, and an optimal sleep, mindfulness will remain key principles for a healthy future for patients after COVID-19. Post-COVID, also some specific recommendations for physical activity should be mentioned. Avoid exercise for 2-3 weeks after cessation of symptoms, and limit activity to light activity, but also to limit sedentary period. This will be important. Asymptomatic contacts could continue exercise as normal. Lifestyle may change immune system balance, as you can observe here. Having a healthy lifestyle means a balanced immune system homeostasis. but an unhealthy lifestyle can lead to an unbalanced immune system disease state. And Mark Hammer, which realized last year a large study with more than 300 people investigated, shows that an unhealthy lifestyle is synonym with an elevated risk of non-communicable disease and is also a risk factor for COVID and hospital admission, which might be partially explained by a low-grade inflammation. And adopting simple lifestyle changes could lower the risk of severe infection. What means practically healthy lifestyle for ex-smokers, for smokers, or for non-smokers? Here we have very recent guidelines, 2020, 2025 guidelines, American guidelines, to follow a dietary pattern at every lifestyle age, to customize and enjoy nutrients-dense food, to limit foods and beverages higher in added sugar, and to focus on meeting food groups' need with nutrient-dense foods and beverages. Here are some examples how we can switch from typical food to nutrient-dense food, and I will put the point on the switching from full-fat yogurt with added sugar, for example, with plain low-fat yogurt with fruit. Meet nutritional needs primarily from food and beverages. Incorporate cultural tradition. Start with personal preferences. Consider also budget. Eat a lot of dark green vegetables, red and orange vegetables. Practically all colors have to be in our plate in order to focus on meeting food group needs with nutrient-dense food. At the end of last year, practically 2 months ago, a new guideline on physical activity was elaborated by World Health Organization. And here you can see the level which is between 150 to 300 minutes per week of moderate physical activity. But health benefits will appear when a moderate level of more than 300 minutes per week will be attained. Here is very well shown the recommended range of physical activity. And it has to be mentioned that any type of physical activity is better than inactivity, bringing substantial benefits on personal well-being. Now, being the president of the Romanian Medical Prevention Association through lifestyle, I have to end this presentation considering the words of Robert De Niro, that we must teach our kids that a car is not the symbol of success and walking is not equal to poverty. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Anca Hâncu, for the presentation. And indeed, at the beginning, I forgot to introduce you, that of the Romanian Prevention through Lifestyle Medicine. You're a medical doctor, you have a PhD in nutrition, and you have an extensive research related to nutrition at the Carol Davila University of Medicine and Pharmacy in Bucharest. So thank you for the presentation. If there are questions related to the topic, which it's very actual today.
Is Krzysztof Przewoźniak speaking, the next speaker. In fact, thank you so much, Anka, for very detailed and very interesting presentation. I have a very brief question regarding the role of level of glucose, both in combating with weight control, but especially in his role in smoking cessation. We know that this is one of the most important mechanisms when reducing withdrawal symptoms. Can you comment in few sentences that issue?
Yes, of course, I can comment. We know that this addiction act in our brain, and practically when people stop smoking, they will try to replace one addiction with other addiction. And the secretion of endorphin is also stimulated by eating sugars, and by other pleasant activities. Physical activity, sex, listen to music, buying something nice. So people will try to move to other activities which could bring them a positive feeling by enhancing endorphins. For that reason, we stimulate people to enhance their physical activity in order level of endorphins, and they will be able to not to replace smoking with sugar, because the first tendency is to replace smoking with eating, also due to the fact that they have to replace the jest. They instead of starting to smoke, they start to eat usually high sugar food.
If there are other questions or
Ivan,
remarks?
good morning, Ivan.
Hi, Ioannis.
Hi, Anka. Thank you very much for being with us, and your presentation was very good. And I would like to express a little experience, a big experience, not a little, all these years, 30 years dealing with obesity. It's a matter that the doctor or the practitioner that face obese people has to deal with a complex way, I think. For example, the mental part is very important, the physical activity is very important, nutrition is very important, and the follow-up must be very, very frequent after the stop of the smoking, I think. That's very critical, so that not to have weight gain in big numbers. Must be the doctor close to the patient in the first critical days, weeks, months after stop smoking. That's my experience.
Yes, I agree, and I consider that this first period, doctor has to be near this person who wants to quit smoking, and to help him to adopt a healthy lifestyle, because practically when they decide to stop smoking, they have in mind that they have to go to a healthy way. And here the effort to stop smoking has to be supported by also the other elements of healthy lifestyle: nutrition, physical activity, yes. Good relation with alcohol, not to drink too much, not
yes,
to sleep too less or too much. All of them has to be combined, and at some extent, mindfulness approach could be a good approach. Mindful eating and mindfulness as a whole.
I agree. Yes.
Can I have also a question to intervene? If you hear me, yes?
Yes.
Okay. A very nice presentation, because it's a rare attack of nutrition against ex-smoker, to help him for having a correct diet and more exercise. And I appreciate this presentation of Dr. Anka Hâncu. Of course, it was very interesting to see what happens in the COVID period. My question is referring to a very particular aspect of smoking cessation. As lung physician, what I observe to my patients after smoking cessation, they gain weight, they are not in contact with nutritioner, and this gain of weight is persisting and bringing some other disease, very frequently sleep apnea syndrome, obstructive sleep apnea syndrome. And I observe in this presentation, it was with many aspects and many consideration concerning the first year of cessation. But we know that these patients are relapsing very frequently. The rate of relapsing is high, still high, even if they are assisted or not by a specialist in counseling smokers. And that's why my question is referring to the second moment coming after the first month. How the nutritioner can intervene, because if he's relapsing, he became again a smoker. And in assisting such a smoker, even if he's relapsing, usually the team was composed by a lung physician, a specialist in counseling, or a psychologist. What is the mission of the nutritioner here? This is my question.
Thank you, Professor Mihaltan, for your question. From my point of view, after some years, there are also ex-smokers who will not follow so well the healthy lifestyle. Also, some of them, as you mentioned, will become again smokers. There are some points here, because some of new people who will start smoking again will develop COPD or asthma. There are different examples of people who start again smoking and have a lung function decline. Then together with weight gain, because it's possible that during during no smoking period, they will weight gain. So this period will be very contradictory for them. So also the integration and advices in a lifestyle center would be very beneficial, because these people, as I will make a parallel, when we treat obese people, we after the target is attained, we maintain the relation with them, and they will come monthly to check their weight. Exactly for smokers, from my point of view, the relation with pneumologists, where they have been in evidence, has to be maintained monthly by 2 months in order to keep them as known smokers. Because if they will start smoking again, then also the whole lifestyle and their mindset will be changed. And practically also in the nutritional intervention is very similar with the intervention for smoking, because means change in mindset. This is the most important element that has to be changed in people, the mindset. Mindset of non-smoker, mindset to be healthy, mindset to eat healthy, to move more, and practically move more and eat less. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anka Hünku, for the questions. I'm looking also to the time. I just would like here to, of course, there are people who can still ask you in chat if there are questions. And here, just with a remark of Dr. De Gracia Hills, she's saying that family and friends supports are also very important. So yeah. Indeed, if you, the rest of the family or the friends are smokers, it's a bit very challenging to
passive smoking is also a big problem.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you very much for the presentation. We will continue now. So we will sacrifice the 5 minutes break just to be in time. So thank you very much. I invite I invite Christoph Prezovniak to have the presentation about for healthy lifestyle, an example of artificial intelligence-based tools for prediction and prevention of tobacco and alcohol relapse. He's a medical sociologist with an extensive experience in public health and chronic disease. It's a governmental international expert in public health policies and European Union public health projects coordinator. So welcome. It's the first time that we have a presentation list for ELMO. So we are really curious about your experience, what you have we have the honor that you are sharing with us.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Jan, for giving me floor for my presentation. The first question is if you see on my slides.
Yes, yes.
Fantastic. So today I would like to tell you very briefly, in fact, because this is a broad issue, a little bit on the role of modern technology in healthy lifestyle, but especially I'll be focusing on more artificial intelligence-based tools for prediction and prevention of two biggest in terms of lifestyle risk behaviors, that means tobacco and alcohol. In the beginning, please let me say a few words on global and country look at tobacco and alcohol use, its health effects and economic costs. If you take a look at that slide, you see that still in tobacco epidemic, we have a biggest problem with cigarette smokers, or with the number of that population is very big, exceeding 1 billion of adults. But in the past years, we are seeing that the new epidemic is coming. That means the population nowadays 20 million of HTP users and approximately 70 million of electronic cigarette vapors. Still, we have, at least in some countries like Sweden, approximately 10 million of smokeless tobacco, like snuff. As regards the use and dependence from tobacco and alcohol in my country, I found such data for my country. You see that we have a quite big population, big proportion of alcohol drinkers. This is approximately 80% of adults, 26 million, and approximately a quarter of adults represent tobacco epidemic. We have 4 million, that means 12% of adults of daily drinkers, alcohol drinkers, and approximately 7 million daily tobacco users. However, the population of those who are dependent from particular substance abuse is bigger for tobacco dependence than for alcohol. If you take a look at two global maps, on the left on cigarette consumption per capita in adult population, and on the right in the same population, but for alcohol consumption, you can see that in most of cases, but first of all for North America, especially Canada, Europe, and former Soviet Union countries, both epidemics occur together. If we try to calculate how many people die each year for a particular epidemic, we see that much bigger is the epidemic of tobacco. Nowadays, according to WHO estimates, over 8 million, we have over 8 million deaths caused by tobacco and 1 million due to secondhand smoke. For alcohol epidemic, this is approximately 3 million deaths occur every day. We can also see that the spectrum of potential diseases which are attributable to particular risk factors is bigger for tobacco than for alcohol. However, when analyzing, for instance, according to 2019 Global Burden of Disease data, 10 key risk factors in terms of years of life lost per 100,000, we see that both factors, including tobacco and alcohol, are quite highly rated. And if we're talking about prediction for the next 30 years, we see that tobacco is even higher rated in the future that now, and position of alcohol remains almost the same. In terms of total economic cost, I don't like you to divide for particular costs. Again, tobacco epidemic is more costly. For United States, this is over $300 billion in direct medical care cost for adults, and in terms of lost workplace productivity. For alcohol, total cost, this is approximately $250 billion, but then this calculation also includes criminal justice expenses and loss from motor vehicle crashes. Nowadays, I would like to tell you a few words on basic challenges in prevention and treatment of tobacco and alcohol dependence, again, speaking mostly about a Polish case. The first important thing is weak positioning of health promotion and disease prevention activities in the national public health strategy. I think that point is also very consistent for other countries. We're still observing strong lobbying of tobacco alcohol industry against comprehensive tobacco control and alcohol strategy. We observe lack of sufficient coordination of the activities undertaken by different stakeholders. We have almost in all countries lack of public-private partnership, lack of sustainable financing for alcohol prevention and treatment, and very low funds, much lower than for alcohol, spent for tobacco prevention and treatment. We have very few smoking cessation clinics and limited number of health professionals involved in treatment of substance abuse, and there is rather decreasing than increasing rate for this phenomenon. Less than 1 in 10 of tobacco dependent patients and 1 in 6 of alcohol dependent patients decide to be treated from substance abuse. This is one of the observations that is used for using modern technology that partly help to solve this problem. We have big lag time between therapeutic visits and no support at that time, limited offer for intensive and comprehensive treatment in public health sector, very limited use of internet and mobile apps for support of tobacco and alcohol prevention, at least by now. However, in this phenomena, we rather observing increasing trend. We have rather conservative than modern model of treatment management in public clinics, and there is a high cost of treatment of tobacco and alcohol dependence in private clinics. What about new technology and changes, potential and observing changes in society, markets, life, research, and paradigms and methods of intervention? This is very broad issue, so I just like to touch for a while, that broad issue. First of all, we have to talk a little bit about life modernization. We have now much more technology in daily life, workplace, and environment. Second is that access to information, knowledge, and professional service nowadays becomes one of the top social values. Third, we have new high-rated professionals that include computer, internet, artificial intelligence, and cybersecurity specialists, but also hackers, professional fake news providers, and trolls. Through new technology, we have possibility of global, permanent, and multidimensional communication. We are observing rather virtual contact that dominate physical relations. We are more and more living in so-called society of risks. That means that we have more risk, we are making more risky decision life, and we think that transgressive personality is more important social value. We don't have enough time for reflection. We are observing atrophy or rapid changes in social and professional authorities. And we are also observing much bigger psychological consequences of a risky life than in future. So there is more and more psychological disorders. We have possibility of self-creation and self-affirmation when internet, social media, and mobile apps are used. I mean about avatars, internet celebrities, and influencers. And last but not least, these technological changes are connected to generational changes. Youngest generation don't know how to function without computer, internet, smartphone, and social media. Let's focus for a while on the last one issue. You can see on the slide 5 generations which are living now and sometimes working side by side in 2020. Look at 3 last generation, in which one there is a role of internet and social media and technology mentioned. Internet, MTV for those born in 60s and 70s, Google and Facebook for those born in 70s to 90s, and tablets, devices, and apps for those who were born by the end of 90s. I would like to concentrate on the last 2 generations. Which are the features of these generations? They would like to be self-confident about their professional life competences. They have high elasticity and capability to cope with labor market. They are highly optimistic, active, and oriented on personal, professional, and social development. They have new approach to authority based on high expectations toward competences, management skills, leadership, and activity-oriented inspiration and passion, but not, or in less extent, on family relations and respect to age and social roles. Their work and life activities are evaluated rather due to their needs and expectations, but not on to the interests of group or employers. They are sometimes egoistic and narcissistic towards social relation. They concern on non-professional dimension of happiness and pleasure, then concern rather on access to goods, not to their possession, and they have permanent use of computers, smartphones, internet, and social media. What are the health benefits and attitudes? The youngest generation has more pro-healthy attitudes in general than their parents in the same age, and therefore might be helpful in combating against tobacco and alcohol epidemic. However, on the other side, they are also more eager and competitive than parents to gamble with any risk in order to achieve life success. Modernization of tobacco and alcohol market with innovative and novel products may attract them in continuing smoking or alcohol drinking. But on the other side, you can their fluctuation rate. There is also a need for modernization of tobacco and alcohol prevention and treatment if we need to cope with generational challenges and the needs of the youngest generation. There is also urgent need for in-depth analysis of the beliefs, behaviors, and attitudes. There is also a few studies about it toward health, tobacco and alcohol use and control strategy. Current public health and tobacco control strategies have to be adapted to needs, beliefs, and behaviors of millennials and Gen 2020. What about, do you hear me? Hello?
Yes, okay. We hear you.
Now a few words on modern technology and global strategy of tobacco industry. So about market, what is the reaction of market to the new technology? First of all, we observe market changes from combustible to vaping and heating products, and it doesn't only concern tobacco, but also we are observing bigger and bigger interest for vaping alcohol in the internet. We have further investment of transnational companies into e-cigarette production and sale and higher affordability of e-cigarettes. We know that the rapid increase in prevalence of e-cigarette use among adolescents is observed in many countries. In adolescents, for experimentation with and exposure to nicotine as psychoactive substance, and young adults for arguing by tobacco industry that e-cigarettes are less harmful products and helping in smoking cessation. This increase, by the way, can be strengthened by development of heated tobacco products and may contribute to the increase in smoking of combustible tobacco products. Transnational tobacco companies can use new technologies such as social media, mobiles, apps, cloud data storage, chip controllers for building up personalized target tailored tobacco products and marketing strategy, and for harvesting personal data on tobacco habit. I will show you a few data about it. You can see on this slide how dramatically is increase in prevalence of cigarettes among 15 to 19 years old adolescents in Poland, from 70 to 62% for ever e-cigarette use, from 6 to 30 for current e-cigarette use, and from 4 to 22 for current dual users. What is also interesting is that this increases are contributing to also increase in current cigarette smoking in my country from 24 to 38 in this population. The market of the e-cigarettes in terms of numbers, but also in terms of value, is bigger and bigger. My country, unfortunately, in both categories, belong to the countries when the e-cigarettes are very fastly developed. And a brief message about something new that was found by few groups regarding heated tobacco products. A Canadian group, I will show you the analysis in a minute, found out that heated tobacco products like IQOS are equipped with two, not one, microcontroller chip, which is responsible for heated mechanism, but also for the second one that is capable for storing and transmitting usage information and sending potential data on number of puffs and instances of activation to Philip Morris database through cloud, and then personalizing by Philip Morris the marketing of these products. The Tech Insight in Ottawa made an inspection of IQOS hardware. They realized that IQOS is equipped with two microcontrollers, as I told you. And from the product description of these chips used, the data could include details like a number of puffs by users and how many times a person smoked the device in a given day. Professor Greg Connolly from the United States say that what they are going to have is a mega database on how Americans smoke. Then they will be able to reprogram the current puffing delivery patterns of the IQOS to one of them may be more reinforcing and with the higher education potential. So briefly speaking, they are trying to harvest personal data on smoker habits for their interest. One slide on the need and the role of modern technology in healthy lifestyle and treatment of psychological disorders. Briefly speaking, when using mobile apps, we have access to all intervention in one tool. We have collect data, we have access to data storage and to creating the big data and to the analysis. This is the permanent automatic collection of the various data, ongoing analysis, open access to population statistics, patient's access to his medical records, permanent access to therapist records on his patients. So in terms of in walking smoking cessation clinics and their possibilities, it seems like a paradise for potential therapists and analysts. We can do prevention, for instance, raising awareness of substance abuse, its risk and cost among tobacco and alcohol user abstinence and their families. We have to screen potential populations, so we have easier access to those tobacco and alcohol users who don't need therapeutic support or have not received professional treatment support. We have access to those users who suffer from tobacco or alcohol attributable diseases and to high-risk health and social groups. And there are a lot of therapeutic benefits, including easy electronic arrangement and management of therapeutic visits, better and permanent control of therapist work, broader spectrum of diagnostic and therapeutic methods, for instance, sleep, high-level prediction of tobacco and alcohol relapse powered by artificial intelligence, easy, anonymous, online 24-hour and cheaper access to all preventing and therapeutic intervention, shortening time of therapy, easy and permanent access to social supporters, so-called Facebook of abstinence, new methods of patient motivation, and improvement in methods of tobacco and alcohol abuse therapy, for instance, by chatbots, so-called virtual assistant advice. How we can do that, especially in terms of artificial intelligence-based tools. The stage one is to create treatment ecosystem, then preparing diagnostic tools, collecting big data, selection of relapse predictors, and then the statistical analysis. In the stage or step two, we have to profile, target, and relevant algorithms for prediction of tobacco and alcohol relapse, for
I think that we have a problem with internet connection, Ian.
Okay, it seems because I had also myself, so I didn't know if it's from here or not.
I think that's from.
So until we have
that means that stops the internet connection.
Okay, so maybe let me see. I see a question. I don't know eventually if Professor Michal Tsam, because you will present also about the e-cigarettes. We have a question from Angeliki from Greece. Eventually, if you know, I would like to ask you about the electromagnetic stimulus in the earlobe. Some anti-smoking centers in Greece use it in order to help patients to quit smoking. I don't know if you know something about that.
Yeah, I know this other offers coming from different studies to try to help smokers to quit. What I can say is that until this moment, accepted for randomized studies are only the medicine, traditional therapeutical drugs used, and as alternatives are all these offers where it's entering also acupuncture, homeopathic help, or stimulating some centers. I don't know more as possible help, but classical recommendation, all the guidelines are before trying this type of help to make and to use traditional, well-studied in randomized studies of these therapeutical drugs. This is a recommendation of all the guidelines.
Thank you very much. Indeed, we have alternatives, but as you said, we don't have enough evidence data to support even for hypnosis. We know that it's often used, but I think We have to prioritize, as you said, those who are we have enough data to sustain. So I wrote an email, but probably has some internet connection issues.
What was very interesting in the presentation of Shistov is this chip introduced in all these devices used for heat-not-burning tobacco and electronic cigarettes. Until now, it was well known that they used one chip, but now there are studies demonstrating they are using two types of chips. And this is a little bizarre to accept such devices in European Union, where we know exactly that it is forbidden to access the data of a patient, of a citizen. And that's why probably it will be a reaction in the future to this strategy of surveillance of the habits of consumers.
And how it's still allowed if it's not allowed?
Yeah, but probably opposition is not very strong in this moment, but there are enough evidence that they are doing this type of studying the habits of the consumers. And this is not a good attitude.
I see. Thank you.
Shistov is again, but you have no microphone. Your microphone.
Exactly.
Something happened on
okay.
the
No problem.
connection.
Welcome back. So
let me.
Was at the stage? What was?
Yeah. Let me go back to my presentation. Okay. Now I'm moving to the proper slide.
Yeah.
We are almost at the end, but
no, we really enjoyed.
Unfortunately, lost a little bit time for. Okay.
I think was I think was before at the stages where we lost you. So yeah. 2-3 slides before.
So I have to say also few words on the stages, or?
Yeah, that is where we lost you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So nowadays, I would like to tell you a few words, especially when using the artificial intelligence, how to prepare such a mobile system. The step one is to create treatment ecosystem, preparing diagnostic tool, collecting big data, selection of relapse predictors, and then make statistical analysis. In the step two, we have to profile targets and relevant algorithms for prediction of both risk factors, prepare beta prototype of such a system, and ensure that the system is effective at least 80% of prediction. And in the last step or stage, we have to prepare final version of the addictions artificial intelligence digital therapeutic system equipped with the chatbot, so-called virtual assistant based on machine learning or automatic natural dialogue language that can essentially improve the effectiveness of traditional therapy. Few words in terms of narrative review scientific of literature on mobile health for better diagnostic and treatment of psychological diseases. There are not too many publications because this fields of science just started to work, and there are only few on alcohol. First of all, more on alcohol than on tobacco treatment. So I will present you a few that concern on psychological disorders. The first one, which was published in 2018, is on digital devices and continuous telemetry on their opportunities, and the conclusions is that the 10 years ago smartphone usage and ownership among the general public, and let alone patients with severe psychiatric illness, was limited. We get big step forward, but still is not enough. But if you take a look about magnetic resonance plus psychiatry publications which are use artificial intelligence or other mobile technologies, you can see a very rapid increase in citations of such a publication, including digital technology plus psychiatry since 2002. Another publication on schizophrenia diagnosed through digital mobile concluded that among individuals diagnosed, hospitalized, and treated for schizophrenia, up to 40% of those discharged may relapse with 1 year. So there is a big risk of relapse. They analyze 6 questionnaire predictors, 15 predictors of geolocalization, and 16 predictors connected to mobile activity. They argue that in this 3 months pilot study, they apply anomaly detection to active and passive smartphone that can represent, let's say, kind of psychological disorders among 15 subjects with schizophrenia, and they found that the rate of behavioral anomalies detected in the 2 weeks prior to relapse was 71 higher than the rate of anomalies during other time of period that underline the need of prediction of the relapse. Another more longitudinal study is on prediction of relapse to harmful alcohol after orthopedic liver transplantation. So with the big also challenge in important disease. Let me now at the end show you selected examples of mobile prevention and treatment of tobacco and alcohol abuse. You can divide them in 5 groups. The first group includes simple market gadgets without diagnostic and therapeutic functions. I don't like to concern on these products. The second group are application based on less or more advanced self-control methods for limiting tobacco use or alcohol drinking and continuing abstinence. The third one are application based on development and support of the user's society, in particular at the time of abstinence, and the progress in such a product is probably bigger for that one category. The fourth one are application including basic diagnostic and therapeutic tools, for instance, diary of hunger, emotions, sobriety, and exercises for cognitive behavioral therapy with online and face-to-face access to therapists. And the ambition is to have more and more comprehensive mobile therapeutic platforms that offer advances online system of substance abuse diagnosis and treatment, online and direct access to therapists, and artificial intelligence-based prediction of relapse. Let me show you a few. The first one, quit drinking, stay sober, is an example of simple mobile application based on motivational tools and advices. The second one, called 20 Step Up, is mobile application supporting participants of 12 Steps program. The third one is the biggest one with the society, with the number of users exceeding, as I well remember, few 100,000 users. This is the biggest social media sober grid platform for alcohol sobers and abstiners. But the most advanced is HS, first mobile application for alcohol drinkers and abstiners that was assessed by clinical first application that was assessed by clinical control study. You can see here a user panel, and then you can see the same application, but for therapist panel. We have also 2 much more advanced Polish mobile application. The first one is in English Addiction Meter 2 2.0, which is Polish mobile application powered by artificial intelligence in diagnosis of different addictions, including tobacco, alcohol, drugs, and hazard, assessing the risk of relapse and encouraging to cease, but the most advanced is Helping Hand. I'm leading there the research group, personal digital therapeutics. This is probably the most advanced comprehensive ecosystem for diagnosis of alcohol abuse and other addictions, which is equipped with artificial intelligence-based system for prediction of relapse and its treatment. It's a platform available for Android and iOS, for computers and smartphones. In future, we have to have a chatbot for supporting the treatment. The first results you can see here. We analyze over 7,000 relapses that occur in the past 3 years for the 7-day model, over 50 predictor of alcohol relapse. We measure sensitivity and specificity test. You can see sensitivity and those application is very high, still more than 80%. And conclusions at the end: first, mobile application seems to be promising tools for strengthening prevention and treatment of tobacco. Mobile application offer various functions that may substantially improve traditional treatment. Mobile application may increase a proportion of tobacco and alcohol dependent patients who decide to be treated. With these tools, we may have a permanent access to bigger number of patients and broader spectrum of predictors, what may have an impact on progress in research on prevention and treatment of tobacco and alcohol dependence. And algorithms of artificial intelligence and new analytical methods may help in sufficient prediction of tobacco and alcohol relapse that could support therapies and diagnosis and treatment activities. So we started some time ago, in fact, in the beginning of the 19th century, from drunk and probably full of tobacco smoke parliament, British Parliament, to sober and smoke-free artificial intelligence. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the presentation and all the information what you share with us from Poland and globally, and not just for smoking. Here we had, while you are disconnected, we had from Angeliki Andreou from Greece, that she's saying, thank you for your very interesting lecture. I would like to ask you about the electromagnetic stimulus in the earlobe some anti-smoking centers in Greece use in order to help patients to quit smoking. If you eventually know something about that.
I have very limited knowledge about. I'm much more concentrating on, let's say, the functioning of mobile application, social media, internet, and the role of artificial intelligence, mostly for prediction and prevention of alcohol and tobacco relapse, but also other addictions. But I know there are more and more publication on other technologies used not just for prevention, but for medicine. So the spectrum of using the modern technology, for instance, in magnetic resonance and other, let's say, and other solutions. One of the solutions, for instance, including automatic connecting between measurement of carbon monoxide level with a decision on diagnosis of tobacco dependence. So for sure there will be more and more technologies and ideas how to use the engine of potential technologies for our goals. But I don't know in details that particular solution.
Okay, thank you very much. If there are other questions before we take a short break of 5 minutes, could be, let me see here, it's also, yes, please.
I can try to say hello to Krzysztof again. Thank you for your presentation. You spoke about these two chips in this device from e-cigarette. After your opinion, is it without any reaction from the European Union, from other authorities? Because now the scandal, what I can say in Romania is that they are introducing a chip in a vaccine for COVID. It's a whole fake news inside. But what is your opinion concerning these chips in surveying our smokers?
Well, the first publication, which was done in Guardian, as I well remember, a few years ago, was a very fascinating news, at least for us, but also for other public health specialists. Then I tried to collect more data on that, and first time published in my presentation during the ENSP European conference 2 years ago. No reaction from, how to say, European or other agencies or bodies. I partly understand why they don't react, because still we don't have very limited data on then so-called false product. There are only a few very small and rather technological inspections. One of them I presented you in my presentation, then show that there is a possibility of such a procedure. So in fact, you know, HTP, I mean about IQOS, is in fact equipped with the new controller, chip controller, that can harvest personal data on number of puffs and other habits, you know, for the PMI interest. But one of the PMI general manager say that they are not using, you know, so when they are selling, you know, they are not using this micro. However, there was no any study, you know, that check what she's saying. In fact, one of the former PMI managers from Japan, Mr. Masuoka, claim, you know, that they are doing that, and they are sending, you know, those data which are stored from particular IQOS equipment through cloud to PMI databases in United States. But this is nowadays rather the exchange of statements and very technical inspections. So we need a serious both technological but also public health study in this field. Then probably European Union have to react.
Okay. Thank you for your answer. I see there are no questions now. We will take just a short 5 minutes to do some stretching and so on. So we are coming back in 5 minutes. Okay, so we are back. Meanwhile, we had some question in the chat, but I see that Christoph was not there. But yeah, we had just a question. Now the next presentation, it's about e-cigarettes. So we will go deeper in the topic. E-cigarettes, a repetitive mistake. We have the pleasure to have Professor Dr. Florin Mihalțan, Head of Pneumology Department of Carol Davila University of Medicine and Pharmacy in Bucharest, Romania. And he's also the president of Somnology section of Romanian Pneumology Society and member of the Romanian Medical Academy. And also it's a joint presentation with Ancuța Constantin. She's also a pneumologist and PhD candidate at the same university. So please, Professor Mihalțan.
Hello, good morning. Still in Romania. For Romania, it's 11:35. I can say still good morning. I hope all people can see my presentation.
Yes.
The title of my presentation is a little challenging because I'm speaking about e-cigarette, but I'm speaking also about our mistakes. It is finally a repetitive scenario with new healthy offers coming from the tobacco industry, and the mission of doctors is mixed. Many doctors are sponsored by the tobacco industry, and they accept to make another kind of presentation sustaining e-cigarettes. And what we have to notice also is that in this period, with so many COVID cases, it is a whole debate about risk of infection generated not only by conventional cigarette, by tobacco, classical tobacco, and also by e-cigarette and heat-not-burning tobacco. Here is my conflict of interest. And here you can see agenda concerning all that means e-cigarette from overview until the problems generated for authorities and legislation. A short overview and history. What is finally this vaping? It is included in a general title, Electronic Nicotine Delivery System, ENSP, is a word used to describe the use of an electronic nicotine delivery system. It's called vaping because of the aerosol cloud given off during use. And hence are battery-powered devices that hit liquid into an aerosol that the user inhales. And this liquid has nicotine, which becomes important for inhaling and exposing these consumers. And are also non-combustible tobacco products. And we have a variety of ENSP products. They are copying all type of offers coming from classical, conventional tobacco. You can see here vapes, vaporizer, vape pens, boxes, e-hookahs, and e-pipes. And there are so many vape icons also circulating in our mass media. What are the characteristics? We have an atomizer with a heating coil to heat the liquid until it is vaporized and inhaled. Newer technologies added a cartomizer or a clearomizer to the atomizer design to increase delivery of nicotine and longer vaping time. And a clearomizer has a larger capacity tank system for holding the fluid, and the clear design allowing the user to monitor the fluid level. How they began? It was a Chinese pharmacist Ho Klik who made and introduced this concept, and in the next year, a production of e-cigarette explodes, and you can see every step made by offer and in the same time by the number of consumers. In 2017, 3 tobacco companies expand distribution of their heated product, and a major part of producers of e-cigarettes are now changed the owners, and the owners are tobacco industry. How is it made? We have these flavoring agents and flavor enhancing chemical agents add to nicotine. We have also a lot of other chemicals, and this e-liquid is finally a liquid factory with many flavors added. It is, we have to recognize, a flavor menu, copying many other offers founded in our nutritions and found in what we are consuming as industry of offering some other nutritions. What do we really buy? It is this design flag, lack of adequate labeling and concerns about quality control and health issues, indicating that regulators should consider removing ENS from the market until their safety can be adequately evaluated. You can see here the atomizer, wrappers, and cartridge, and all this have some consequences of vaping inside. What is doing the tobacco industry? We have to notice and to know exactly what are their moves. Tobacco industry, as I said before, are investing seriously in non-cigarette nicotine products, and you can see that every tobacco transnational companies are doing this. They came on the market in different moments, but they are there. And they are using promotions, marketing messages common with combustible cigarettes as price appealing to youth, placement of advertising across retail and media channels. And they are speaking about different offers from combustible cigarettes as healthier alternatives, aids to quit smoking. What are the consequences? In this moment, it is a majority for consumers seeing the advertising. More are receptive to e-cigarette advertising. Few are associating harm and addictivity's perception of this e-cigarette to the clear and the whole image of this product. This strategy brought some other effects. Juul adopted, is one of the examples, the same terms used by Philip Morris, and they had extensive advertising campaign to glamorize cigarette smoking while downplaying its addictiveness and deleterious health effects, according to the suit. They use youth-oriented imagery in conventional and social media marketing campaigns. They promote them as cool and sexy. You can see here a list of other e-cigarettes with labels similar to juice and candy. And in this strategy, you can see also the consequences, because 78% of middle and high school students had seen TV advertising. Underage sales in the retail environment and internet is also very familiar. It is also a strategy used on scientific articles. They succeeded to divide these articles in industry-funded articles favoring tobacco harm reduction, and other coming from independent researcher, but they are not declaring all this producer of articles are not declaring a real interest, and if they are sponsored by tobacco industry, it's not every time very evident. They are manipulating also research. The main goal was to generate controversy and cast doubt about health risk of smoking, to deny, to downplay, to distort and dismiss the evidence of health effect of secondhand smoking, suppressing or criticizing research not supported by tobacco industry, prolific research funded by tobacco industry and ends, fund of pro-vaping opinion, divide and conquer is finally this strategy, and also creating some lobbying groups in favor of this e-cigarette and also of heat-not-burning products. And here you can see the results. It is a huge public health debate regarding the potential harm and benefits of ENS use. On the left side, there are some associations sustaining this use of e-cigarettes on ceasing tobacco smoking. On the other part, you can see that WHO, American Lung Association, American Thoracic Society, and of course, European Respiratory Society, Australian Medical Association are saying that all this evidence are not enough for sustaining that we can use e-cigarette as a safety product and also as a harm reduction and a good offer for as a cessation tool. Epidemiology, here you can see that there are so many evidence of huge growing prevalence of smokers and consumers of vapors and consumers of e-cigarettes. And it is a variety of users coming from former smokers, never smokers. And if you are looking to this National Health Interview Survey data, they show that recent former smokers were more likely to report using ENS every day or some days than adults who had never smoked. And studies show that the use of ENS is correlated with of other tobacco products as marijuana and alcohol. The United States Surgeon General report has called vaping an epidemic. And on its website, Juul, one of the famous brand of e-cigarettes in the United States, says it is committed to improving the lives of the world's 1 billion adult smokers by eliminating cigarettes, that we don't want anyone who doesn't smoke or already use nicotine to use Juul products, and certainly don't want using the product. And the reality is totally at the opposite. In high school seniors, Juul growing as market at 72%. Prevalence is growing to 20%. In the same time, combustible cigarette diminished and declined, and it's a growing of 78% in high schools and 48% in middle schools from 2017 to 2018. And flavoring is also very evident as offers in 2016. It's growing every year. Here you can see how what happens with consumers of e-cigarettes, students in middle school and high school. It's very evident growing prevalence in the last years. And revenues and the reason from e-cigarettes growing quickly can be found in the budget of tobacco industry. You can see that it is a big affair in Germany. That now we have 10 until 14% of regular users, and 39% as safer alternative, 23% to smoke less, 15% to stop, 13% for trying to be accepted in non-smoking areas, and 10% protects the other. Also, 50% of youngs tried with e-cigarette, and they tried because in 44% it works a curiosity, in 44% it was an attractive flavoring, 32% was the influence of internet and friends. In the same time, e-cigarette use is associated with marijuana use in teenagers and young adults. It is an increase of marijuana use in young, using e-cigarette versus non-users of e-cigarettes, and the odds ratio is 347. What are the points of debate on e-cigarette? They are focusing on the ingredients and their toxicological carcinogenic effects, the impact on adult smoking behavior and risk, the effect on passive smokers, and the impact of adolescent behavior. It is with hypothesis, gateway hypothesis. The ingredients and their toxicological carcinogenic effects. There are several factors affect nicotine absorption bioavailability, and here you can see some of them: pH, concentration of nicotine, propylene glycol, glycerin, alcohol, nicotine, temperature, and user characteristic. One of them, propylene glycol, is diminishing the adversive effect of high dose nicotine and is promoting higher levels of nicotine. Advertised on sweet and fruit flavored products are also growing the activity in nucleus accumbens. Less harmful means not harmless, because we have multitude of chemicals, carcinoids, and it is a very recent article published this month demonstrating a connection between these chemicals and carcinogenic effects of e-cigarettes. Concerning nicotine, if you are comparing conventional cigarette with electronic cigarettes, you can see that the puffing of e-cigarette brought a high level of nicotine in comparison with conventional cigarette. And looking to other ingredients, you can observe that glycerin and propylene glycol can be together with heated carcinogenic substances like carbonyl compounds, acrolein from glycerin, formaldehyde, and acetyldehyde from propylene glycol. And also we have not to forget some specific ingredients coming from tobacco. Nicotine is addictive, can induce coronary heart diseases, can influence type 2 diabetes and erectile dysfunction. It is also this other product with direct carcinogenic effect, and some alkaloids, nitrosamine and terpenes. Flavoring, as I said before, there are almost 7,000, but very irritating and cytotoxic and genotoxic are diacetyl butter taste, cinnamon aldehyde, and benzaldehyde, with irritation not only of mucus, but also influencing immune reaction or inducing bronchiolitis obliterans. We can find also some heavy metals released from heating coils, like cadmium with nephrotoxic effect, inducing allergenic reaction and carcinogenic effect. Nickel, also allergenic and carcinogenic, and chromium, tin, aluminium with carcinogenic effect. There are some other effects on oral cavity, oral effects, like effect of nicotine, which alter cytoskeleton-induced extracellular matrix remodeling in gingival fibroblasts, and e-cigarette reducing metabolic activity on gingival fibroblasts and raised level of apoptotic human gingival epithelial cells. The effect on respiratory system is also proved, especially on human bronchial epithelial cells, reducing viability, increasing oxidative stress, with encouraging chronic inflammation, with apoptosis and necrosis cells, down-regulating the expression of some genes associated with cilia movement, influencing some cytokines, and reducing viability of alveolar macrophage. Other effects on respiratory system observed in healthy smokers after 5 minutes of e-cigarette, increasing peripheral airway resistance and inducing oxidative stress, and after 12 months, growing twice rates of chronic bronchitis and chronic cough phlegm, and change of transcriptomes in alveolar macrophages and inhibiting migration and phagocyte ability is another possible action. On other cells and tissues, e-cigarette is affecting neutrophilic response and defense proteins, is shifting in cardiac autonomic balance toward sympathetic predominance, has a certain cytotoxicity by flavoring and inducing reactive oxygen species and pro-inflammatory cytokines in Kupffer cells. Resistance to infection in vitro is also another aspect, because e-cigarette is facilitating pneumococcal infection, raising platelet activating factor receptor, is increasing virus load, and this can be imagined as discussion also for COVID. Higher pulmonary burden of methicillin resistance like Staphylococcus aureus, and greater severity of influenza infection. Here you can see immunological and pathological effects, synthesis made by this author, and there are so many affecting all the organs. The impact on adult smoking behavior and risk, and here is a huge discussion about passive smoking, is starting with this debate on is e-cigarette safer for pregnant women, because it's not producing tar, ash, and CO, and has a reduced level of, apparently a reduced level of toxicant exposure. But we have not to forget that it's containing nicotine, which is inducing vasoconstriction, with certain effects on blood flow, uterine blood flow. And in the same time, other effects are coming from this consequences on function, placenta function, and central metabolic regulation, inducing epigenetic changes in the offspring, inimical effect on neonatal natal lung development, and cause some cytotoxicity. And this is because nicotine is not the sole actor, and that's why FCTC warn against use of e-cigarette. You can find, even so, this offer of ENSP included by some guidelines and by some products of associations, most part of them coming from Great Britain, as offer for having an ad for smokers to quit. They are using this ads in the same time with other classical offers coming from some therapeutical drugs. The impact on adult smoking behavior is a little different. 9.1 are using using this product for quitting smoking, and as you can see, 1/3 of them are using vaping in prohibited area. It's a modality to avoid legislation. On children and teenagers, you can see that 16% tried e-cigarette, and at 12 and 16 years old, 50% tried this already. We have not to neglect and to forget the dual use. Up to 7 of 10 adults of e-cigarettes are dual users. And the cardiovascular risk is evident because myocardial risk for e-cigarette use is also evaluated versus conventional cigarette, and chronic acrolein exposure increased also cardiovascular risk. In the same time, PLN exposure is higher in dual users. Reporting some reports concerning pulmonary effects are also in the last years more evident in our scientific literature. And you can see here some consequences: sleep-aid pneumonia, cough, throat irritation, airway resistance, hyperactivity. There are some links with asthma, reduced pulmonary immune function, hypersensitivity, pneumonia. It is a discussion concerning asthma cases. Some studies are saying that it is no change in pulmonary function after 1 year. And there are some benefits from long-term use for asthmatics. But as I mentioned before, it is a rising resistance in the bronchial tree. Also, concerning COPD cases, there are some reports saying that switching to e-cigarettes are not inducing deterioration and no functional consequences, and even so they have some improvement of respiratory symptoms and diminishing of exacerbation. But there are many authors criticizing these articles and emphasizing the mistakes made in organizing this type of articles. Another huge chapter is this trial to include what means death induced by e-cigarette. There are not only accidental deaths with children using the device. It is this huge reported disease, EVALI disease, with a huge prevalence in 2019, before coming COVID, and while generating also many problems for lung physician, to define the consequences on lung of EVALI disease and of COVID disease. There are many reports concerning these deaths, and we have not to forget that long-term use risk is with some other features and influence on brain development and other behaviors. You can see high risk of becoming later chronic smokers, increased risk of mood and attention symptoms. And this is coming also from the low level of education, because 63% did not know that nicotine is present in Juul, one example, and Juul is using higher concentration of nicotine, and this can facilitate a transition to combustible cigarette. Passive vaping, there are not so many studies, but it is an influence in the worse of quality of air with containing acrolein, metal silicate particles, and with possible effect on these small airways, bringing irritation and inflammation. And that's why there are many other problems of studies on e-cigarette, because there are not so many prospective studies, no general legal regulation. The scientific quality is very different, and there are relatively short period of time. Concerning e-cigarette and smoking cessation, it depends from one country to other. It depends from one office to other. You can see one example from North Carolina. 67% of doctors believe it's useful. 18% are recommending. Quitting smoking at 6 months is not very evident. 7.3% with e-cigarette, 5.8 with patch, 4.1 with placebo. Another study said that 10% are reducing smoking and 8.7 are abstinent after 52 weeks. But we have not to forget again, deaths induced by fatal intoxication with cardiac arrest, with ventricular fibrillation, with some huge concentration of nicotine in femoral blood and gastric contents. The impact on adolescent behavior, this gateway hypothesis, is also very important. For tobacco, gateway hypothesis is working, and also for cannabis. They introduce adolescents to use tobacco products, smoking ritual, and it is a threefold increasing of this gateway evidence. And also it is a risk also for low individual with a certain risk profile, like a high level of education, high socio-economic class, low degree of personal frustration, and low level of risk behavior. And all these are important to be studied and to orient our education on this sample of potential consumers. Also, it is a fourfold increase of using risk of cannabis in the 2 next years. And there are many physiological changes in respiratory tract facilitating transition to cannabis. Why is important preparing cannabis in joule? Because it's less risky as in a joint and without characteristic smell. For smoking cessation in young, there are little evidence of their efficacy, and there are more data on dual use. You can see 75% more likely to continue with combustible cigarette and more likely to smoke cigarette daily and heavily as students who smoke only combustible cigarette. There are also some other problems of authorities, and here you can see the consequences on e-cigarette affairs and tobacco companies. Concerning regulatory status, is constantly changing. Only some countries included e-cigarette in indoor smoking regulations. They are not uniform text, and they are cheaper as tobacco. And there is also an ambiguity of usage in subway, rail lines, and bus services. And tobacco companies are rebrand themselves and are trying to to bring a renormalization of smoking. 60% are used in the United States in public areas. And there are key data gaps and uncertainty. Quality control is lacking. Mix of blends and different devices is also very evident. There are limited data on chemical emissions exposure, limited data on dose response relationship, and established exposure level are lacking, and variation on vaping habits are also unstudied. There are many possible regulation policies applied in some places, but not all the countries are doing the same. More are focusing on advertising and banning of advertising and promotion, a few of them on safety standards, and only few of them on taxation and prohibition of brand and patent registration. That's why this delay of reaction of health authorities brought and encouraged as consumers to use e-cigarette, and you can see how it raised this affair and how it works with some restrictive and prohibit measures. Another repetitive mistake, because I'm speaking about these mistakes, is the delay of specific rules for e-cigarette use. FDA regulation are pending. On 2022 FDA pre-market review of new products and review of ingredients, and tobacco and e-cigarettes are using in this period all kind of advertising like for conventional tobacco. Discussion on safety is different from one country to other. You can see the UK policy. They are promoting this vaping as less harmful in 95% than regular smoking. The risk of long-term use not exceed 5% of the regular smoking, and EC-based intervention integrating tobacco control policy demonstrate in these studies that smokers diminish from 19.8% to 14.9%. And now there are articles demonstrating that this decline in smoker is not coming from e-cigarettes. It's not the enough explanation of this declining of consuming. Of course, they emphasize the benefits of e-cigarettes, reducing withdrawal symptoms, craving and chest tightness, normalization of FeNO and ECO, and diminishing of consume of combustible cigarette in COPD, hypertension, and asthma patients. But even so, we need progress in our legislation. And FDA in 2018, concerning e-cigarette, called youth use an epidemic. It is an e-cigarette public health crisis, a threat to public health, and restriction for youth access and flavored products promoted on internet is one of the legislation correction needed. Rules for e-cigarette in this moment. In 2016, FDA introduced new rules including e-cigarette with health warning on all tobacco products and e-cigarette advertising, and no additional restriction on e-cigarette marketing beyond warning labels. American Lung Association is even so concerned about the potential safety consequences of e-cigarette. WHO point of view is also important. E-cigarette not for never smokers, pregnant women and children. E-cigarette not to use until a reputable regulatory body has found to be safe and effective. That's why it's already banned in 25 of 68 countries, and FDA proposed a range of regulatory tools to prohibit flavored e-cigarette. It's also an important thing to imagine in the future, this workplaces policy concerning e-cigarette, and to bring other public policy recommendation with severity limit of tobacco product used in teenager, including e-cigarette, building partnerships with pediatrician, community members, youth leaders, and tobacco control groups and authorities of politicians, free continuing medical education programming for clinicians, conducting research on policy and regulatory informants strategy to prevent youth access, to disseminate effective tobacco control messaging for parents, teachers, and students, to ban all flavored tobacco products, and to make a taxation and increase tobacco retail licensing fees. Conclusion, for future research. We have to look on use patterns across existing and conventional and new tobacco products and novel devices, to look to the safety of devices and constituents, on abuse liability and comparative effectiveness trial for tobacco treatment across all tobacco products, and on impact of industry marketing on risk for use and dual use among all ages. We need health effects from flavoring ingredients, thermal degradation, more evidence here, to look to second-hand emission, tertiary exposure, and vulnerable population, to study aerosol dynamics, and of course this life cycle and of use associated with e-cigarette manufacturing can be one of our next proposed research objective. The only group until now in some papers with benefits from e-cigarette seems to be people who already smoke and want to reduce their exposure to combustion by product, and smoker using for smoking cessation are 27% less likely to stop smoking than other smokers. And e-cigarette in this condition is not safe in absolute terms, are not emission-free, and the particulate matter at vaping reaches a level 12, higher than the United States Environment Protection Agency 24-hour standard. Some of the problems of e-cigarette are with great nicotine dependence in population and specific in teenagers, nicotine higher than stated in the package, this problem of non-nicotinic or nicotinic cartridges, is they are more consuming, and this is connected to safety problem. Vapor or nicotine contamination, secondary or tertiary exposure. All these flavoring products added to nicotine were before intended for food ingestion. We are also these problems coming from environment exposure, nut allergens, explosion and fire of this lithium battery, and deaths intensive care assistance with disease. Conclusion, and the agenda set out by the tobacco industry is disappointingly familiar. Applies 100-year marketing lessons. Our authorities, after my opinion, are unprepared in many countries, and medical stakeholders are confused. That's why long-term consequences of regulatory inaction will be very costly for next generation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for the presentation. Indeed, many aspects which we don't even imagine that exist about e-cigarettes. I have often a question from patients that certain flavors are more dangerous than other flavors in e-cigarettes, like caramel, like mint, or we don't have enough study, or all of them are just dangerous.
Of course, flavoring is one of a very attractive offer coming and bringing more and permitting the consumer to be more addictive. After all, I have studied in the scientific papers, they are acting quite similar, because they were well studied as product added in our food, but not so well studied in what happens in inhaling flavors. That's why the big, probably the next step made by regulators will be to stop all the flavoring added to this e-cigarettes. It's because, like in tobacco, in classical tobacco offers, where it happens also to have some flavoring added, and now it's without.
Okay, thank you. And here was a question from Eric Engelbert. I don't know if you got an answer, but what is the short message of the percentage of toxicity of e-cigarettes?
Short message, it is, I have to emphasize again this very recent article coming this week. It is clear now with short-term use and long-term use is carcinogenic, because without harm or less harm, this means not to avoid the toxicity totally. It exists an exposure on long term with many consequences.
Thank you. Here from Turkey, we have a question from Naime Surenkok. A very interesting talk. Thank you so much. What do you think of Nargila Shisha? I think it works very much the same way, and it's really as harmful as there are not much regulation to prevent these Nargila Shisha places, especially in Turkey, and as far as I see in France as well.
Shisha is another modality to avoid the law. And in many countries, East Europe and Central Europe, they build another industry of consumers of shisha, and shisha with vaping and e-cigarette also is copying this type of offer. It means that vaping remains dangerous. It doesn't matter if it is shisha or something else.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Here we have a question, a last question.
It's
Yeah.
Shishtov also.
Yes, please.
Trying to intervene.
Yeah.
I have to use Florin, that opportunity to ask my friend, on something. Two very brief questions. First kind request to you is to make even very brief comment on EVALI, especially as a lethal consequence of cigarette and with focus on COVID-19 epidemic. So this is the first.
Yeah.
And the second, to you is to say maybe a little more about studies that compare e-cessation but not with just nicotine replacement therapy, with the most comprehensive smoking cessation therapies we have. I don't know too many studies that type. Can you comment?
Yeah, of course. EVALI was an explosion in 2018, 2019 in United States. And it was not very common in Europe. And the first question of European specialist was why it was not the same. It happens not in the same manner in Europe. And the answer is in what they are adding in this device and this dual using of cannabinoids. For me as lung physician, the image on CT scan is very similar with what is inducing as irritation for lung and this very particular image of bronchopneumonia. And thanks to God, the prevalence of EVALI stopped in January 2020 when it was explosion of COVID, and this brought less problems in differential diagnosis of EVALI disease in comparison with the disease bronchopneumonia induced by COVID. What I have is, to add as another comment is that probably now the consumers are more precautious in United States in adding something in this device of e-cigarette. And that's why it was a diminishing of this death cases and unit therapies problems induced by e-cigarette in the United States specifically. Concerning the second question, it's a real problem because, as I said, prospective studies for long-term using e-cigarette as a cessation tool in comparison with other drugs who have more studies on the background are not so convincible in accepting what the British school is saying. We have to use currently this e-cigarette as a cessation tool. This is one of the problem, but they are totally forgetting something else. For youngs, it is window open to become a classical consumer of tobacco. The gateway hypothesis is working. They became dual users, turning away for consuming marijuana and other drugs. And for maintaining this dependency, it is a real disaster and a problem because we have now a generation of teenagers with high dependency to nicotine, very difficult to be advised and to make this quitting even in offices specialized in counseling with teenagers.
Okay, thank you. And we have a last question from Dr. Tatiana Popescu from Romania. Thank you, Professor Mihalțan. It seems that vaping is even more dangerous than cigarettes. What would be the three main action solution in your view?
Main actions for all the, after my opinion, is to have a correct legislation. This legislation must introduce certain restriction for advertising, for promoting these products. We have to avoid what was working very well in this period of COVID for teenagers especially. They succeeded to obtain online all these products. And of course, we have to educate. We have to educate and to prepare this new generation for these products. And this education must be done by doctors who are not paid by tobacco industry. What is very confusing now, and it is working, not only on scientific field, but also on other meetings, is that there are doctors promoting this e-cigarette and heat-not paid by tobacco industry, and nobody is asking about their disclosure and their conflict of interest. And generating for tobacco control teams a defensive behavior, and this is not good.
And the last question, because we had here from Eric Engelbert, saying a high-level presentation, congratulations, and is asking for pregnant smokers really unable to quit. Can e-cigarette be a less bad solution?
It's like a big discussion. It's similar with the discussion, what are doing a pregnant woman? Is vaccinated with COVID or not? And the answer is the same. If it's not recommended, but if the woman accepts, she can make this choice because they are saying it's less toxic, but it's not recommended as a regular attitude accepted and promoted for pregnant women.
Thank you very much for being here and sharing the information. Now, as you can mention, in lifestyle medicine, we tried to approach behavior change many aspects. Today, we are talking about the chapter of tobacco cessation, e-cigarette cessation. We talked about nutrition, so the role what can play to be a tool or for helping to stop with this habit. Now we will have a presentation about the cultural influences, how cultural habits can influence some lifestyle habits. And then in the end, we will finish talking a bit about motivation interviewing. So it will be a real case where a medical doctor, actually, I had an interview with a medical doctor, and how important it is to not judge our patient, to go with compassion, with understanding, to understand the roots of a problem. For that, we have now very happy to have a medical student from Turkey, a fourth-year medical student who is studying at the Faculty of Medicine in Izmir. And it's very special, this faculty, because they integrate already from the first year the lifestyle medicine concept in teaching medicine. So, Kerem Nakai, if I pronounce well your name, you are welcome to.
Hi everyone. It's an honor to present alongside experts. You can see my screen, right?
Yes, we are just waiting. Yes, we are just waiting that you are making a bit bigger. Okay, perfect. Yes.
I think that's okay. So today, my topic is about how interventions may fail due to a crisis that affects the whole society. In the beginning, while we were discussing with my colleague Birce, we thought that the change in the smoking pattern in Turkey is quite unique in the recent years. So it worth talking about, I think. And so to begin with, I prepared a really brief timeline of tobacco in Turkey. So in 1986, until 1986, the state tobacco monopoly was the responsible agency for the production and sales of tobacco products. And then after that, the foreign tobacco industry was established. And 1996 is the a year that first legislation about tobacco cessation was made, and it banned the advertisement of cigarettes, and there were some indoor restrictions. But 2008 is more important because there was a total indoor smoking ban, and as you can see that in the recent years there are other legislations to decrease the prevalence of smoking. But recently, there's actually an increase in smoking prevalence and tobacco product sales. So I tried to understand what's going on and what went wrong. So I divided the timeline at 2008. So before that, actually, there is a slow decrease in smoking prevalence. So here you can see from 1988 to 2008, the total smokers and all the categories actually decreased. And this is thought to be in studies. This decrease is thought to be due to the banning of advertisement and restrictions of indoor smoking. So the society level interventions. In 2006, National Tobacco Control Program was announced, and as a part of that program, in 2008, the indoor smoking was totally banned. In 2010, phone counseling was provided to individuals who wants to quit smoking, and this is covered by the social insurance, so it's free. And taxation on tobacco products increased at a higher rate every consecutive years. And when we came to 2019, the tax rate of a cigarette pack was as high as 87%. So it's quite high, and these are all interventions to decrease smoking. After the 2008 legislation, we see a decrease in total smokers, and in 2012 it's below 27%. But unfortunately, the trend doesn't last long, and in 2014 there's a huge increase, and it's even higher than the level in 2008. So it jumped back to its previous level, and unfortunately it stayed there and there's a plateau, as you can see. So this led me thinking what might have happened in 2014. Actually, many things happened in Turkey around those times, and there was a political crisis as well. But it's not easy to talk about a political crisis. Instead, it's easier to talk about its economic reflections. So we also have an economic crisis, and I tried to summarize what might have gone wrong in the process. But before that, I want to mention hookah. It has many names, as it was mentioned before. The increase in hookah tobacco sales, so this is the tobacco specifically made for hookah, is disproportionate to the increase in smoking sales or smoking prevalence. As you can see in the chart, it increased more than 15 times in just 3 years in Turkey. So it's around 10 metric tons in 2016, but in 2019 it's more than 150 metric tons. So this is a huge increase. And a study from Turkey estimates that hookah use among university students are, for males it's 41.7%, and for females it's 24.1%. And the same study also found that smoking of close friends is the most determining factor for smoking cigarettes and smoking hookah. So this shows us that friend relations plays a key role in making individuals use hookah and cigarettes. There are also other possible causes. The popularity through social media is related to this friend relations, I think. I don't use Instagram, so I don't have any experience, but I asked some of my friends, and they say that there are many posts and stories with hookah use among the young, but this is hard to quantify. I checked some studies. They indicate that there are actually such posts that promote hookah use among the young, but it's hard to quantify. I also know that this is an increasing problem in Europe, and I think that the interventions should target hookah as well. Another possible cause, these are a little speculative, but this is an alternative activity for the conservative youth. So instead of going to a pub and sharing that on Instagram, they share hookah, and that's understandable. Like, that might be a cause. But let me say that such a big increase, I think, cannot be because of a single cause. So there are probably many factors at play. The media and some people may blame the refugees. This is a controversial topic, but I wanted to mention this. I think this is an issue. They say that since there are many refugees from Syria in Turkey, the use of hookah increased, but I don't think this is I don't think this is very scientific, and the timeline also doesn't fit really well. But I wanted to mention that during such situations, it's also a little dangerous to make comments. And here you can see a menu from a coffee shop or a cafe, and as you can see, the left-hand side of the menu is reserved for hookah, and there are many different aromas. The aroma is also a problem in hookah, and the list is very extensive. So there's an aroma for everyone, I think, and this is quite common to see in Turkey. So back to the economic crisis. Turkish economy is on the fall since 2013. I'm not capable of proving to you and showing you a variety of parameters, economic parameters to show the situation about the economy, and it's not the subject of today. But there is a crisis, and many individuals are affected from this long-term crisis. Is still going on, and the pandemic made it worse. Actually, I tried to show the GDP per capita. This is not the only parameter to show how good an economy is doing, but it gives us an idea, I think. And in Turkey, you can see that in 2013, there's a peak in GDP, and the smoking sales are actually very low. And as the years progress, you can see that as the GDP decrease, GDP per capita decrease, and this is in American dollars, by the way, pieces sold of cigarettes increase. And I know this doesn't necessarily mean there's a causal relationship, but we know that having a low socioeconomic status means that there is a higher risk of smoking. So I tried to I tried to understand the relation between them. The title might be a little harsh, but lifestyle medicine favors the rich. So I tried to show the contrast in this slide. So on the left-hand side, there is an individual in a higher socioeconomic status group, and they are drinking matcha tea with almond milk. They are subscribed to the gym. Their sleep quality is better. They are less likely to smoke, and they are affected less from smoking complications. On the right-hand side, the person from the lower socioeconomic group, they are able to afford pastry with black tea only, and they're already probably working in 2 jobs. They have a poor sleep quality. They are more likely to smoke, and they are more likely to be affected from smoking-related complications. And for the exercise part, so as you can see, some of these are the components of lifestyle medicine. So nutrition, exercise, sleep, and tobacco use. And for the exercise part, actually, I have a personal experience. We prepared a questionnaire for the cleaning workers in our campus, and we decided to ask them face to face, make the questionnaire face to face, so that we can better understand their problems and their lifestyle behaviors. While we were preparing the questionnaire, I didn't realize, but when I actually asked a worker about like, do you exercise regularly, that question was a bit it didn't make a lot of sense to them, because he said that I'm already working in 2 jobs, and I when I got home I hardly had time to sleep. So how can I make regular exercise? And that obviously makes sense. It's the socioeconomic status may affect all the components of lifestyle medicine. And having a healthy lifestyle is harder when you have a lower socioeconomic status. So there's a study that looks at the effect of the economic crisis in Europe, and how it affects the lifestyle of older adults who live in the Mediterranean islands. That's where the name comes from, the Narcissist Study. And they found that the falling socioeconomic status has many effects, actually. It causes a low quality diet, which increases some cardiovascular risk factors, especially diabetes and obesity, because it's hard to afford high quality food. For example, olive oil prices raised so much in Turkey, and now it's really hard to afford it for many households. So they're even though we tell people that olive oil is really good for them, they just cannot afford it. And also this falling socioeconomic status causes a social isolation, which increases the stress levels. And socioeconomic status is also a direct cause of high stress levels. And high stress levels also increase the cardiovascular risk factors directly or indirectly through increased smoking rate. So this might seem a little counterintuitive to a non-smoker. Maybe when I first thought about this, I thought, like, if someone does not have enough money to afford quality food, and they would not go for cigarettes. I thought naively, but that's not the case. I think these people are seeking for cigarettes because of their high stress levels, and if they cannot afford cigarettes as well, they may go for illicit sources. That I tried to discuss that at the end. And also, I had another personal experience with this stress levels. Recently, I was a little stressed, and last week when I was in a shop, I saw these cigars, and for the first time in my life, that I had for an instant I had an urge to buy them. I was mad at myself that how could I possibly imagine myself smoking one of these, and I hopefully didn't buy them, and I bought a pack of hazelnuts. But this taught me that it is possible, even for a even if you are against smoking, we are all vulnerable while we are stressed. So there is some data from various studies that tobacco use increase during economic crises. In the US, that they found, although employed individuals had low rates of smoking during the crisis, unemployed groups had a much higher rate. So in the end, the total smoking rate was increased due to the economic crisis. And an EU study found that the number of never smokers did not change. This is good news for never smokers, but instead former smokers started to smoke again. So this might be important while planning an intervention, maybe preventing these former smokers to start smoking again might be an possible intervention. And a study from Portugal actually found a reduction in smoking levels, but the problem is they found that exhaled carbon monoxide levels did not decrease as much as expected. So it's discordant with the decrease in smoking levels, and they suggest that this may be due to increased inhalation depth. So if people cannot afford enough cigarettes, instead they use what they have to its last piece, or, like, there are some people that they smoke the cigarette until only the filter remains, and also inhalation times increased. So this is also a possible and a hidden way that, although smoking might seem to be decreasing, the exhaled CO2 shows us the harm from it is not decreasing as much. Now, this is another topic. So there is a degree of elasticity in every product, and although cigarettes are considered relatively inelastic, elasticity, by the way, in economics means that a rise in the prices results in a decrease in demand. So the cigarettes are relatively inelastic because let's say 10% increase in prices result in a decrease of, let's say, 1%. It's not it's less than the increase in prices, so it's considered inelastic. But still, increasing prices is a viable option to reduce cigarette consumption. The situation in Turkey is a little weird, I think. It doesn't fit in this theory, and although the cigarette prices increased approximately 150% from 2010 and 2019. Total sales also increased by 28%. So here in the chart, you can see these are the pieces sold. This is the 2019 period, but increased again. And the prices are continually increasing, and it's almost, the increase is accelerating actually, but the pieces sold is also increasing. And in contrast to this, you can see the US data as the prices increase. The blue one is the prices. The sales decrease. So this is compatible with the theory, but the situation in Turkey is different. And this loss of elasticity, I think, shows us that there is something wrong, and there is another factor, probably the high stress levels of individuals from the economic crisis, that prevents those interventions, all the interventions, from decreasing cigarette consumption. And finally, this is also a controversial topic, because in a conference once, when a professor said that increasing cigarette prices is a good intervention, I suggested that, like, doesn't this increase illicit tobacco consumption? And they were a little assaulted, I think, and they said that this is what tobacco companies say. So this is not true, they said, but I think it's a serious issue, but it's hard to quantify. So the exact volume of illicit trade is obviously not available to us. But I have some data from the officials and some data from seized illicit tobacco. So according to the Turkish Ministry of Internal Affairs, 15% of cigarettes in Turkey were from illicit sources in 2017. Today, he says that this number is less than 1%, but according to another source, a news article, so seized illicit tobacco in customs was 122 tons in 2019, but it's just in the first 8 months of 2020, it's 416 tons. So there's a huge increase in seized illicit tobacco. So this might give us an idea that there is a serious problem in this area. And this image is not an uncommon scene from Turkey. They sell tobacco in these bags. This doesn't mean this is necessarily illegal, but it's hard to understand and hard to regulate. So I think the issue of illicit tobacco is it's probably increasing during an economic crisis. So I have some summary points. So the smoking prevalence actually decreased from 2008 to 2013 due to the legislation and smoking But unfortunately from 2014 to 2019, it increased above its levels in 2008. And hookah use increased much more than cigarette use, and it's very common among the youth, and this is an area that requires an urgent intervention. Economic crisis might be an important causal factor for the increase in cigarette consumption, and also the loss of elasticity of cigarette demand and increased use of illicit tobacco products are important points to consider. So if I were to propose an intervention, I would say healthy economy would mean a healthy lifestyle and hopefully decreased amount of tobacco consumption. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. You had really fresh and evidence-based information what you shared with us. So it's really nice. And this is why we are happy that medical students are part of webinars. While we are waiting for questions or remarks, I would just like to notice, I mean, were two things which actually made me to reflect a bit and to make these comments. One, in one moment you mentioned that lifestyle medicine is it's maybe for rich people. So somewhere today you are right, because we saw that educated patients, higher education favorize a healthier lifestyle. So we have the data on that. So here it's coming my second question, that how we can eventually find ways that people with low income can benefit from healthier life strategies, because you mentioned the price that it's really increasing. So, but it's in contradiction with the fact that in economic crisis, people smoke more. So the price, I suppose, stays the same, the incomes are less, but the people spend more. So there it's something which maybe the other speakers or participants could give an answer, or maybe even you.
I was thinking about how we can how there can be an intervention for the low income groups, and I thought that maybe so for countries with social insurance, maybe these should also be a part of the social insurance system. So to prevent all these illnesses, actually a simple intervention can be to provide these people quality food items. And
yes, it can be. It can be. I don't know if someone else has another ideas or remarks on this.
If I can say some words. For me, and probably for many other countries, Turkey is a good example how to deal with tobacco industry, because they are acting on all the pillars. Empower, we know all that means empower, and they are acting on all these pillars, building an important strategy on tobacco control. And referring to taxation, there are two things probably altering the effect of taxation in Turkey. One is every time when they discovered, as other authorities, unfortunately not in Romania, but I hope to discover also in Romania this type of action. This goes with golden eggs. It means taxation in this COVID period. Taxation must be, and this is one of the important criteria to work, over inflation. If it's over inflation, and I suppose that in Turkey in this moment, inflation is one of the problems. If it's over and it's depassing inflation, it's acting. We know in all the studies that if you are growing the price with 10%, without doing anything else in other fields, 5% of smokers are disappearing. They renounce. And this is one of the possible intervenes in this tobacco control. And the second thing, very important for me, is that in this moment, Turkey has also good programs on education for youngs in schools and in high schools. And there are many colleagues, they are doing voluntary work, and they have some benefits for this new creating area of level in teenagers.
Thank you. So I'm just wondering now, because here we talked about the cultural influence, how people look, Kerem, at hookah, because that seems that it's increasing more than the classical cigarettes.
Yeah.
Or it's cheap, it's expensive, because I suppose that hookah has a price lower than the typical cigarettes, or that was also increased.
No, it's not cheap, but the cultural thing, these are a little speculative, so it's hard to find data on these. But so hookah is obviously a part of like the Eastern culture, and as you know, Turkey is as always, it's always said, is a bridge between the East and the West. But in the recent years, that maybe being a part of the East was more popular among some of the population, and so sharing a picture of, like sharing your picture with while smoking hookah, it somehow became so popular that everyone started to like the youth started to do this. In the past, it was common among the middle-aged group, and now I mean, as I said, I don't use Instagram, but I've seen some posts on the internet that there are many people that share themselves having this with a variety of that. Also, the variety is a problem, not just the aromas. That there are very different designs of hookahs, the different designs of the pipes, or I don't know what it's called in English, but it's like a fashion item, I think. So that's really.
So actually, I think from what you said, it became part of the national identity somewhere, and that can be very tempting. But second, I think that many people, I mean, we had the presentation about the e-cigarettes, which many associate with being less harmful than the classical cigarette. I think even hookah, it's like, okay, you know, we have already, it's a tradition. So, you know, it's maybe people don't realize it's so harmful like the classical cigarette. So this is why. And I don't know. I mean, Professor Mihalsan said about the good program which is for youth in Turkey, but I'm not sure if in this program they attack on hookah because being part of the national identity or tradition. So I don't know.
That's hard to know, but but it's possible, I think, because it's in the media, for example, always cigarettes and cigarette smoking was shown as a part of this national tobacco control program, and there are some interventions on hookah as well, but maybe it wasn't enough, because like if probably this is like I thought of a biologic pathway. If you decrease like one side of a pathway, the other side is boosted. So probably if you intervene too much with cigarettes, then, but if you do not intervene with hookah, probably people just shift to using hookah instead.
I see. Here, Gergana Geshanova, she's asking if she could see again the last page of the presentation with the last reference. And meanwhile, your professor, Kamer Mutafoglu, saying that, yes, she's really proud of seeing your progress. So you had also other congratulations from Joan Hanafin. Thank you, Karen, for your excellent account of the very interesting situation in Turkish. So Dr. Joan Hanafin is from Dublin. Hassan Kazdagli, great presentation, important insights. Kerem, healthy lifestyle is indeed for the rich. Thank you. Well, I would not like to be the message of the day webinar, so I think we should look a bit to the nuance. And Professor Mutafoglu from Turkey saying people are not aware that hookah is very harmful in many aspects. Hookah coffees are very inviting and trendy for young people for coming together and get socialized. So probably this is true. And Ozden Demir is saying congratulations, Kerem. And in Bratislava, there are many hookah saloons. I was very surprised to see that. It's also in Belgium. So in Belgium, in Austria, I know, but are mostly in the districts with higher, with a majority of Turkish roots origin. So it's part of the cultural identity. So I don't know which reference a bit eventually, if you can do it a bit bigger.
Okay.
Because I think it's too small. Okay. So it was for Jordana. And Atash Bicha said, thank you for the presentation, Kerem. I think that was an interesting point of view of the topic. Now, indeed, you presented the situation and the influence on the habits from economic, social, and cultural. So really thank you for your presentation and being part of this webinar. Now we will close the session with my presentation. So it's not. I planned to be a bit on a lighter form, to be on a lighter form because I'm coordinating the European Lifestyle Medicine Certificate. So there we talk about how different lifestyle chapters are influencing our habits, our health, especially the chronic medical related conditions. And then in one moment, each of the participants should talk about the healthy habits which would like to share, to share and to improve during the course. And this is why one of these interviews what I had was with a medical doctor in the certificate, and I was really impressed by her story and the way how I approach this discussion was based on the motivation interviewing principles. So this is why, for those who are not familiar, I will just do a short presentation of the principles. Do they work? Somewhat study what information we have. Do they work less or not at all in tobacco cessation? And then I will present you the case to see how far we can arrive when we are compassionate, we are non-judgmental, and we are using the motivational techniques to understand better the roots of a problem, in this case, the smoking. Before that, we had just Professor Abacoglu Hakan from Turkey saying, good talk, Kerem. congratulates. Hookah shops are concentrated around university campuses in Izmir. It seems that they are very targeting a specific group of young people. And indeed, that could be also a reason why they are so popular. So coming back, motivation interviewing actually was, the founders are William Miller and Stefan Rolnick, so from the years, beginning of years 90, and was initially used like an, sorry here for some typing mistake, was used for people with alcohol dependencies. Now it's a collaborative, so we are talking with certain principles. It's a goal-oriented, so we have a goal, changing a behavior in a specific chapter today of lifestyle, because we brought that in the management of chronic disease. And what, as the name is saying, we are trying to explore the motivation, to find out the intrinsic, the internal motivation of our patient, and to build also the self-confidence to boost the efficacy of our patient. So this is why, because that is what we know, that on long term it's working, and also to avoid relapse of what we talked also before. If you are going to PubMed to look some, I mean, I typed motivation interviewing, smoking cessation. I found it the last almost 30 years, only 412 results of about these. So I look just to, especially to randomized controlled trials. And it's a bit not 100% that it's working. It's better than a brief, very brief advice in certain, for example, in cardiovascular disease, it's working well. Then it's even more efficient if we, and here we arrive to lifestyle medicine, it's more efficient if we combine the intervention with other healthy lifestyle intervention, as physical activity, for example. So this shows again that the approach should be global, holistic, not just focusing on one habit. As I always say to my patients, their life, it's not in the medical office. So their life, it's the outside of medical office, which that means that there are more determinants which play a role in their behavior. The main status, psychological attitude, it's ambivalence. So the patient would like to change, but doesn't know how, doesn't know when, with who, or so. When we have a patient who is who has this attitude, we have to be the dog. So the dog who is leading the blind person. But as we know, he's not going where he wants. He has to lead the blind person, the person who has, the patient who has not enough knowledge, to the destination, what is the best, the right destination. So with this attitude, when you have a patient who is coming to you, said, yes, I would like this to change, but I don't know how, or maybe not now, is that the moment when you should apply the motivation interviewing principles. As you probably have an idea already after what I said, motivation interviewing, it's not about lecturing. It's not about threatening. So, you know, if you will do that, you will still continue to smoke, you will have a cancer. If you, I know better than you what is good for you. I mean, informing the patient that it's our obligation as a medical professional. So yes, you are at risk of many chronic and even lethal diseases, but the way how we talk with our patient, that makes the difference, and that is really a challenge for if we had a classical traditional medical education. Now, of course, I'm always saying about fear, like, is that an internal motivation for our patient? Is that an external motivation? It seems it's working better in men. It's up to you to see, but myself personally, I'm not a big fan of motivating a person with fear. When we are talking about this approach, and usually in lifestyle medicine, we have always three real virtual person involved. So we have the patient, the experts, and the coach. So when we are in a motivational interviewing approach, we are always two experts. So the patient is expert about his own lifestyle and how he would like to implement the changes between two visits. Us, we are the health professionals, a specialist who offers an expertise about the topic which the chapter of lifestyle medicine that our patient would like to change. But we are also the coach, and the coach attitude is it's a language, it's an attitude, it's a way of talking with the patient. So that makes the difference. Of course, we mentioned many times today, it's important where our patient is. We talked today about stages of change, and this is why when we have a patient in front of us, it's useful to identify where our patient is today. So the model of change, is talking about 5 main stages of change. Here you have them on the left. On the right, you have the word which could characterize very clear how is your patient. So in a pre-contemplation, you have a patient in front of you who is not at all aware of the risk, what he has on the influence on his health about from the habits what he practice. So it's no, it doesn't. He doesn't know, and most of the time doesn't know to change. So, for example, yeah, we talked today. Many people didn't know, at least until the last 2-3 years, that the dangers of e-cigarette. We can have a patient which is in the phase of contemplation. So yes, we know that this is problematic, but so maybe I will change. So for example, yeah, we talk about e-cigarettes. Yes, I'm doing this. Yes, it's not healthy. Okay, I will think about this. So maybe I will change. Then you have the person in preparation. So it's a person who already, since a few weeks, most of the time up to 1 month, already started to change something. So maybe it's smoking less, or maybe since a few weeks quit smoking. There, it's our role to help to develop a plan. It's a plan which is not our plan like health professional. We are co-author. So it's the patient. We try to see what fits the best to achieve his goal of not smoking. And here it's also important that we use, for example, the so-called smart approach. Then when the patient is in action phase, it means that already changed and the habit, so quit smoking, for example, more than 1 month and up to 6 months. So here it's doing something, trying to work well, and the maintenance, it's the patient already for more than 6 months change something and it's keep going. So UP, very good. We are on the good path, but unfortunately, we are talking about a circle of changing, and we see that some economic reason can favorize relapse. So this is why we have to keep in mind that the relapse is always possible. So actually, yes, I'm talking about the trans-theoretical model of change of Prochaska and Di Clemente. What I found useful here, and it's also sustained by studies, is the fact that we have, it's important to work on multiple chapters. So multiple chapters can increase the, how could I say, the healthier lifestyle behavior. So someone who is smoking, if it's starting in the same, starts smoking, it starts in the same time to eat healthier or to do physical activity, can be useful tools in avoiding relapse or to be able to start again the circle. Now, the main idea when we talk a patient in this technique, it's to transmit the idea that you have what you need and together we will find out. So like this, we are talking about a partnership. So we are two experts in different fields. I'm accepting you how you are. It doesn't mean that I accept or I agree with your habit, but I'm accepting you because I know, so I'm compassionate about how difficult can for you to face, to be sometimes outside of your will, a certain habit. So compassion, I think it's always should be also like health professionals, something, especially people with chronic disease or special people with habits who are not, which are not healthy, and they try to do something. Compassion should be one of the main attitude of us. And then how this is happening, giving attention, but really being attentive to our patient in front of us. So as I mentioned there, it's we talk with a non-judgmental conversation. So like this, we are talking like to partners. Of course, sometimes it's challenging. So even we talk about smoking, yes, that it's smoking, I don't know how to stop, if it's the family smoking. Let's focus on one thing at a time. So for example, we know someone, it's helpful if someone, it stops already smoking in the car, or it's not smoking inside, so on. So please, focusing one chapter, one step at a time, it's important. Then we talk about the process of evoking, and here we explore and we build up the motivation, and this is happening usually from so-called open-ended questions. So open-ended questions means the questions which the answer is not yes, no, number, or so yes, do you know that smoking is dangerous? Yes, of course. So that it's a closed-ended question. It's better to ask, for example, what do you think about smoking, or what brings you smoking, or how could you improve your life economically from health point of view if you will stop smoking. So these are examples of open-ended questions, and these we know today that it's building motivation. And then you have the last process of planning. Here it's intention is not enough. Intention should be supported by a plan of action. I mentioned you the SMART approach. So the SMART approach, you take really a small goal, and then you are working together with the patient to identify a small goal. And the next time when we see each other, we talk about this. So I'm always talking, we see each other after 4 or 6 weeks. What is your experience with your goal? So for example, as we mentioned, someone who, okay, I will not smoke anymore in the car. Okay, very good. We meet in 4-6 weeks. Please, let's talk. How was your experience with this? Now, the last theoretical, important concept in motivational interviewing is the so-called OIRS. What that means. So we are using open-ended questions. So it's coming from that, so that it's something very useful. Then affirmation. Affirmation means that, for example, you are giving compliments to your patient. So for example, said, I'm here in front of you because I would like to quit smoking. So you will not say that, I'm very proud of you. No. Motivational interviewing is not about you like a health provider. It's about the patient. So it's really great that you decided to come here because you are thinking about your health, or you are thinking about the health of your patient. So this means affirmation. You are giving compliments. Okay. Compliments related to the health literacy and education of your patient, so not to be too childish or too complicated. Then you have the reflections. So we will see also in the case. So I try a bit to give you the practical case. You will have like a titles there, which type of techniques or attitude I'm using. So reflections, it's about repeating what the patient in front of you says. It's like a mirroring what the patient says. Why this is important? For two reasons. First of all, that you show the patient that you understand what he's saying, and second, the fact that the patient is hearing his own words, it helps to, it's sure that you understood, and it helps to explore, so still go forward. And then finally, you have the summarizing. So this summarizing can be, of course, in the end of the consultation, but also can be when you move from one chapter or one topic to another, on aspects of the topic. So for example, yes, you talk about not smoking in the car anymore, and then how it's home. Do you smoke inside? Do you smoke outside, or so on? So, and this is also useful, the reflection, when you are having a kind of moments when you are not sometimes you have moments of silence, so that could be also interesting to reflect, and to summarize, so it helps you to continue the discussion. So that was a bit the theoretical, a bit the idea for those who are not familiar. And now I would like to present you the case. Okay, so the case, it's about an okay, so the case, it's about Anastasia. She's a charming, dynamic medical doctor in her 40s who has a relatively healthy lifestyle. So she's eating relatively healthy, she's doing physical activity, and she was telling me that, except that she cannot stop smoking. She said, look, Johan, I tried many times, but it's just not working. So I need my 5-6 cigarettes per day, which are really part of my every day. So I have 1 or 2 in the morning with a coffee, at noon, and the rest I'm smoking in the evening after work. So we talk about these. I have her permission to share her story. Of course, the name was changed, and the voice what you will hear, I hope will work, is not her voice, but I asked a good friend, and I thank you to her because yeah, so I could use her voice. And the main ideas, okay, was also a colleague, a medical doctor, but I really tried to stay in this attitude of curiosity, empathy, understanding during the conversation. So like I was talking with a friend, with someone who I really try to understand. And it's even more challenging because when you have a medical professional who is smoking, it's really challenging for you, a medical professional, how you feel, but also which example you give to your patients, for example. Now you will see in the end, of course, after a short conversation, I mean, lifestyle medicine, it's not about miraculous solution. So it means that it's not giving you an immediate result, but it helps you to explore with the patient direction which you maybe didn't think before that they are existing, or what could be the roots, the case. So let's see what was about. So here you will see on the top an attitude from the motivation interviewing. So I was saying, Anastasia, I appreciate it that you share with me your intention to change. Which chapter of lifestyle medicine does this belong to?
It's about smoking. I already tried quite many times, but without success.
So, Anastasia, it must be frustrating. Does smoking bring something special in your everyday life? Many people use it as a solution against stress. Is this your case as well?
I don't think so. I just like smoking. I don't need it to relax. I can have my gym session and a cigarette after. It's not stress related for me.
So, do you smoke more at work or at home or while socializing?
It doesn't matter, but I don't smoke at home because my husband is allergic to smoking. He's an ex-smoker and I feel even worse when without intention I expose him to my cigarettes. But my need to smoke is still stronger than my feeling of guilt.
I can imagine how you feel being caught between guilt and your love for your husband, not wanting him to be exposed to your smoking. Was also someone else who was smoking in your family?
Oh, sorry, Ivan. My father was. He was a big smoker, and a few years ago he died of lung cancer. So you see, Johan, I have this tragedy also, and I am still a smoker. I was so close to my father.
Anastasia, that must be very difficult for you to remember this link and what you went through, to be close to him and to see him passing away. That is not easy. I have maybe a strange question for you. Could I ask you something very, very personal?
Sure, Johan. Please, I am a bit emotional now. Sorry.
It seems you still miss your father. Is your smoking maybe a kind of link you want to keep with him?
I've never thought if this, but maybe there is something. I remember when I was a small girl, the tobacco leaves dropped in the cave of our house, and I loved being there and watching my father arrange those leaves. That sense was so special.
So in fact, your smoking, it's associated with your childhood memories related to the connection between between father and daughter.
Yes, indeed. Never thought about it.
So your tobacco memory is rather a sensorial memory. Tobacco scent versus the act of smoking.
Definitely, I like the tobacco scent. This could be the reason.
Could I give you eventually some alternatives to the tobacco scent coming from other sources?
Yes, sure, Yuan.
Like candles with tobacco scent?
Ah, that is a great idea. Thank you, Yuan, especially because I love candles.
So you see here someone, a medical professional who was smoking since a long time, through a conversation which were using the motivation interviewing approach, we arrived to a point where we never thought that could be the cause. Now, I don't have a feedback from her. It was a conversation we had not long time ago, but was a solution, a reason, a cause to a habit what she was trying to change. And here in her case was something emotional, was something related to the tobacco scent, what she liked, and probably was also something which kept her linked to her father, that she always been very close with it. So of course, from here, we can go further to see how can work, how the alternatives. And you saw, I was asking permission, I try to be empathic, I try to use open-ended question, even if, okay, in the examples, it's more close-ended. Usually the percentage should be 70 open-ended questions to 30% close-ended questions. So the conclusion of this case and the presentation, it's like, please try to understand the culture, the background, the history, the lifestyle history of your patient, and this helps to have a better results in changing behavior. So thank you for your attention. So if there are questions or remarks.
Ivan, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
I think that it's very, very interesting the way that must approach someone who wants to stop smoking, I think, because it's the mental health status is very important, the background, as you said in the case study. And so we have, as health professionals, to see how we can synchronize everything so that to the patients do the next step, because it's very, very difficult, I think, according to my experience, for this step. But if they do this, maybe it will be a solution for them for the long-term period.
No, you are right, Yanis. Well, she's from Greece, so but it doesn't matter from where is the person, but you know, when we say about, I mean, I was really impressed. So myself, when I hear this, it kept staying in my mind that it's exactly this multi-side approach, what we try to say, and we say lifestyle medicine. So I would not like now to go in philosophy, but I think that lifestyle, it's about moments, what we have. So if you understand the moments, what your patient is going through, you will explore, it's easier to help to ameliorate habits. So in this case was her past. Let's see what other questions we have here. So Ozden, thank you very much. I thank you. Isolation, it's another problem. What could be the option in COVID-19 times telemedicine approach? So the question, I mean, that the telemedicine could favorize, or you think would be less efficient? I didn't understand exactly the question was then. Eventually you can, because we know that today the mental health is really challenging, and probably you have the same with the patients. okay, to reach the patient is problematic. It is, and it is not. So, I mean, the fact that now telemedicine became so so popular because we need to, I mean, especially a few months ago, we needed to have this. And okay, Yanis, you have more experience with telemedicine than us, than me. You can eventually complete. But I think that communicating, of course, face-to-face, you have also the body language, the expression on your face, which cannot be replaced by telemedicine. But telemedicine stays still a communication tool, a very important one. And now you can contact, and we saw in studies that contacting through SMS, WhatsApp, phone, email, staying in contact with your patient, it's really helping to build the therapeutic alliance between you and your patient. So until you are communicating, doesn't really matter how you are doing, it's still working.
Yes, it depends also in the kind of telemedicine. In some cases, you need to be very close to the patient and to see, as Ivan said, to see face-to-face, to discuss more privately, because some maybe don't like this way of screen. But to my experience, because as you said, I have years of telemedicine. Now I have platform in my clinic. Before it was Skype, it was FaceTime, it was Viber, okay. But the people need to be close to them, even with this kind of consulting, especially in this period, COVID period. It's important, and I think that helps them.
Okay, thank you. And they wouldn't attend to smoking cessation clinics. Yes, please.
May I have a comment on the last question?
Of course.
In fact, when we are taking a look at available studies on what's happening during COVID epidemic with in work clinics and telemedicine or mobile application that offer kind of treatment, for instance, for smoking or alcohol cessation, we see that the number of such treatments is very much rising, on the side of telemedicine, but in particular circumstances. First of all, when people losing face-to-face contact with physician, psychiatrist, or therapist of dependence. This is first. Second, it depends on his or her needs. So if this person is seriously dependent from substance abuse and need to have a short time contact with therapists, then telemedicine can offer much more than for other people. And of course, it's also dependent on the status of telemedicine in particular countries, and also the proportion of internet and mobile application use in particular countries. So it's a little bit complicated, question, but what we are observing during in the past year, this is much bigger interest for telemedicine as a potential aid for treatment of alcohol and tobacco abuse than in the past.
Thank you for the remark, and especially you have so much experience with health technology. So I see no more questions. Like a conclusion, and I think for all the panelists present, because we tried, and it's the first episode of this type of webinars in which we really try to stay in the frame of lifestyle medicine. And we saw today that changing habits, it's not the responsibility and the expertise of one person. So, okay, we are talking about tobacco cessation since how many years, 20, no, I think even 60 years, because I remember in the 60s, we still had medical doctors who recommended to smoke. So we are really, and we needed, from what I know, thousands, of at least hundreds of articles until we realized the link between health and tobacco. So, and we are still facing the problem. So this is why I think this approach of integrating other chapters of lifestyle medicine, it's useful. So this is why today we tried to see how about nutrition, about health technology, about alternatives which are not so healthy as they are promoted. We saw the culture aspects, the tradition, the national identity, how can play a role. Like was a nice presentation from Turkey, and modestly I tried to go on exploring the roots, the childhood, and most of the time childhood it's a response to many healthy life habits. So I don't have much evidence-based data on this, but from my work as therapeutic, I can say you that the majority of answers you can find in childhood. So we tried to offer you this. Thank you for those who've been present here. We have also we try to do shorter so than we did in the end of November. So we are going on the chapters. Thank you also to Yanis, who came here from the European Lifestyle Medicine Organization. And I hope we still see each other in another webinars with our expertise. If there are other questions or remarks, please feel free to share.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you all. And I hope that the next will be short.
Yes, and okay, so thank you very much. Enjoy smoke-free afternoon weekend this week, and see you next time. So bye.
Bye.